What if I told you there was a silent epidemic happening in our schools? A hidden handicap that affects more than half the student population, routinely derails focus, cripples memory, and can be the invisible difference between an A and a C. This isn't a new learning disability or a crisis in teaching methods. It's a biological reality that we've been conditioned to dismiss as normal. A monthly battle that millions of students fight in silence, armed with nothing more than a hot water bottle and the cultural expectation to just get on with it. This is the story of how period pain, medically known as dysmenorrhea, is one of the most underestimated saboteurs of academic achievement. And today, we're going to dissect the 7 specific ways this common yet profoundly misunderstood condition systematically dismantles a student's potential. This isn't just about cramps. This is about cognitive science, neurology, and a systemic failure to acknowledge a major barrier to education. To understand the first saboteur, you have to understand what pain actually is. It's not just a sensation, it's a full-scale neurological event. When your body experiences the intense, inflammatory pain associated with severe dysmenorrhea, it floods your system with chemicals called prostaglandins. These are the primary culprits behind the cramps, but their impact doesn't stop at your abdomen. This inflammatory response, coupled with the nervous system's high alert status, creates a kind of cognitive static. We call it brain fog. But brain fog is too gentle a term. It's a cognitive blackout. Think of your brain's processing power as a supercomputer. Now imagine a massive, resource-hungry program running constantly in the background. That program is pain. It demands attention. It hogs memory. It slows everything else down. Suddenly, a complex math problem feels impossible. Recalling a historical date feels like searching for a single file on a corrupted hard drive. Reading a single page of a novel requires you to start over 3, 4, 5 times because the words simply don't stick. This isn't a lack of intelligence or a failure of effort. It is a biological hijacking of your cognitive resources. Your brain is so busy managing the pain signal that it has little left for higher level thinking, for learning, for memory consolidation. Your grade doesn't slip because you didn't study. It slips because on a neurological level you couldn't. This one seems obvious, but its true impact is deeply underestimated. A 2012 study published in the Journal of Pain Research found that dysmenorrhea is the leading cause of recurrent short-term school absence in adolescent girls. But it's not just about being marked absent. It's about the compounding effect of that absence. Missing one day of a math class can mean you don't understand the foundational concept for the rest of the chapter. Missing a key history lecture means you're missing the context for the next 2 weeks of discussion. This creates a vicious cycle. You miss school because of pain, you fall behind, the stress of catching up exacerbates the symptoms next month, and you miss more school. It's a debt that accrues interest with every cycle. But there's a more insidious twin to absenteeism, presenteeism. This is the act of showing up, of physically being in the classroom, but being functionally absent. You're there, but you can't concentrate. You can't engage. You're fighting waves of pain, nausea, or the anxiety of a potential leak. You're a ghost in your own education. And in a system that often equates physical presence with effort, presenteeism is an invisible failure. You get no sympathy for it, no excused absence. You just get a lower grade. Sleep is not a luxury for the brain. It is a biological necessity for learning. It's during sleep, particularly deep sleep, that our brains consolidate memories, transferring information from fragile, short-term storage to more robust, long-term storage. Now, introduce severe pain into that equation. The throbbing, aching, and cramping of dysmenorrhea makes finding a comfortable position impossible. The pain can be so intense that it repeatedly wakes you up throughout the night, shattering your sleep architecture and preventing you from ever reaching those crucial, restorative, deep sleep stages. So you arrive at school the next day not just in pain, but in a state of profound sleep deprivation. The consequences are catastrophic for a student. Your reaction time is slower. Your mood is destabilized. Your ability to focus is, for all intents and purposes, gone. The information from yesterday's lessons was never properly filed away in your brain, and your ability to absorb today's information is severely compromised. You're running on an empty tank, trying to compete in a race against students who are fully rested. It's not a fair fight, and yet the expectation is that you perform just the same. Motivation isn't just about willpower. It's a complex interplay of neurochemicals, dopamine, serotonin, and psychological state. Chronic recurring pain is one of the most effective destroyers of motivation known to science. When you know that a week of every month will be defined by pain and exhaustion, it creates a sense of learned helplessness. Why start that big project when you know you'll lose a week of work in the middle of it? Why push yourself to get ahead when you know you'll be fighting just to keep your head above water in a few days? This isn't laziness. It's a psychological defense mechanism. The brain, in an attempt to conserve energy for the impending battle with pain, downregulates the systems responsible for long-term planning and goal-oriented behavior. It puts you in survival mode, and in survival mode, the deadline for your history essay seems infinitely less important than simply making it through the next hour. This creates a pattern of procrastination that can be easily misinterpreted by teachers and parents as a character flaw. They see a student who always leaves things to the last minute, who seems disengaged. What they don't see is the student who is trying to strategically navigate a predictable monthly storm. The academic experience is inherently stressful. There are exams, presentations, social pressures. Now layer the experience of severe period pain on top of that. It's not just the pain itself, it's the anxiety about the pain. The constant low-level hum of what if. What if I bleed through my pants in the middle of a presentation? What if I have to suddenly run to the bathroom during a timed exam? What if a wave of pain hits so hard that I can't hide it? This anxiety is a cognitive load. It occupies a significant portion of your mental bandwidth, the same bandwidth you need for listening, critical thinking, and problem solving. This is why a student might seem distracted or unfocused in class. They're not daydreaming. They're running constant, high-stakes risk assessments. This social and logistical anxiety also discourages participation. You're less likely to raise your hand to ask a question, or volunteer to write on the board, or engage in a Socratic seminar if you're worried about your physical state being exposed or becoming a problem. Your voice is silenced not by a lack of knowledge, but by a fear rooted in a completely normal biological function. Effective studying requires long periods of sustained concentration. It requires the ability to sit, read, and process information without constant interruption. For someone experiencing severe dysmenorrhea, this is a monumental task. The pain is not a steady, manageable ache. It often comes in waves, sharp, stabbing, or deep, throbbing cramps that make it impossible to find a comfortable position. You're constantly shifting, getting up to make a heat pack, curling into a ball, trying to breathe through it. Imagine trying to write a timed in-class essay, but every 2 minutes, someone walks up behind you and blows an air horn directly into your ear. How well do you think your essay would turn out? How coherent would your arguments be? That air horn is a perfect analogy for a wave of period pain. It's a complete sensory override. It shatters your train of thought. By the time the wave subsides and you try to pick up where you left off, your focus is gone. The momentum is lost. An hour of studying might only contain 15 minutes of actual, productive cognitive work. Over the course of a week, that lost time is devastating. In modern education, a significant portion of a student's grade is no longer based solely on exams. It's based on participation. Group projects, class discussions, oral presentations, these are all pillars of the contemporary grading system, and they are all uniquely vulnerable to being sabotaged by period pain. Who feels like leading a group project when they're exhausted, in pain, and feeling irritable from hormonal fluctuations? Who has the energy for a lively debate when every ounce of their being is focused on not throwing up? Giving a presentation becomes a high-wire act. You're not just focused on your material, you're actively suppressing pain signals. You're fighting off dizziness. You're terrified of your voice shaking. This dual tasking is immensely draining and almost guarantees that your performance will not reflect your actual knowledge or preparation. This leads to a lower participation grade, but the damage is deeper. It can create a reputation. The student who is quiet, doesn't contribute, or isn't a team player. Once that narrative is set, it's incredibly difficult to break. It follows you from one class to the next, all because of an invisible battle that no one else can see. So, a student's cognitive function is impaired, their attendance is compromised, their sleep is destroyed, their motivation is depleted, their anxiety is amplified, their study time is sabotaged, and their participation is punished. When you look at these 7 points together, the picture becomes terrifyingly clear. This is not a series of minor inconveniences. This is a systemic, biological disadvantage that is baked into the educational journey of millions. And the true tragedy is how we, as a society, respond to it. We dismiss it. We minimize it. We tell young women they're being dramatic. We perpetuate a culture of silence and shame that forces students to internalize this struggle as a personal failing rather than what it is, a legitimate medical issue with profound academic consequences. What's the solution? It begins with conversation. It begins with believing people when they talk about their pain. It continues with better education for teachers and administrators and more flexible attendance and deadline policies. It involves destigmatizing the topic so students feel they can ask for help without shame. Your pain is not a weakness. Your struggle is not a character flaw. It is a testament to your strength that you achieve anything at all while fighting a battle that no one acknowledges. The world is full of invisible forces like this one, shaping our lives in ways we rarely stop to question. And our goal on this channel is to drag them into the light, to dissect them, understand them, and start the conversations that lead to change. If you believe that these stories need to be told, that these hidden struggles deserve a voice, then subscribe to this channel and join the conversation in the comments. By understanding these issues, we take the first and most critical step towards actually solving them. And maybe the next time we see a student who seems disengaged or is falling behind, we'll stop and ask a different question. Not, why aren't you trying harder? But instead, what are you having to fight through just to be here today?